Now notice the B-Class is not some super small city car, even though it's electric, and often you think of those two going together. It's compact, it's got a people mover profile, but it's a full 5-seater with good cargo capacity, because Mercedes is looking at this as being a vehicle that accommodates the suburban American lifestyle. Okay, now the guts of this car, which is really what makes it interesting, being an EV-only model in the US. This is a Tesla powertrain. That's always a pretty good headline to have these days. Horsepower is 177, torque is 251 foot-pounds. That's a really good number, and electric cars tend to be very good in that area. Makes them fun to drive. It's backed up by a 28 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery. Now, the EPA hasn't banked the range on this officially yet, but Mercedes is talking somewhere around 85 miles in ideal conditions.
0 to 60 is being quoted at 7.9 seconds, but 7.9 in an electric car feels different than in a gas car. Quicker.
You can get a full charge in 3.5 hours from almost dead on a 240 volt, what they call a level 2 outlet, which isn't hard to get installed in your garage. If you gotta go by and use a household outlet, obviously it's gonna take like half a day, but that's a survival mode anyway. There is no level 3 or what you might call a Tesla supercharger outlet. Nissan Leaf has that, Tesla has that, but not this vehicle.
This car has a gauge I've never seen before. They call it the E-cell gauge. It shows you whether or not you have the full potential of maximum power. As the battery gets very low or conditions are very high or low in temperature, this would drop and say you can't get full power right now. It's not a measure of battery charge. That's a different gauge. E-cell indicates whether you can get maximum power transfer.
Now underway, you've got sort of this standard Mercedes shifter here on the column. Very simple, put it in drive and off you go. You've got some other drive controls to be aware of. E and S, Eco and Sport. Makes a big difference, really brings on the inverter when you hit Sport, and you can tap into a lot more of that battery. But notice what happens on the dash. The projected range goes down a fair amount.
The B-Class battery is one big, low, broad unit set up under the belly. That gives you a nice low center of gravity and leaves cargo and passenger space alone. Couple that plantedness with the spirited nature of its sport mode, and you've got a car that is by no means sleepy, nor is it trending toward AMG levels of aggression.
The other thing is you've got paddles on the wheel, negative on the left, positive on the right. Those put you into two different regen modes. So I'm in auto drive right now. If I tap the negative one, I'm now locked down into a heavy regen mode. So it's going to really regen hard as I lift off the throttle. If I tap it again, I get to standard D, and then if I tap positive on the right, I get to more of a freewheeling mode. So now it's regenning less. It's going to put less juice in the battery, but I'm going to glide and coast more. I'm not sure how well Mercedes will be able to train drivers to use D, D Auto, D minus, D plus.
And while we're talking regen, this car has what I believe is a first, a radar in the front grille that will automatically apply some regenerative braking if you're closing too fast on traffic in front. It figures, why not? You need to slow down anyway. I may as well recapture some energy while doing it for you.
They are doing a credible job of creating the Mercedes of electric cars. It has Mercedes traits. It has a comfort mission. It's got great isolation of noise and sound that is unpleasant. And the creature comforts inside are very Mercedes. You'll recognize it immediately as a modern Benz. Now, as I mentioned, this B-Class is coming to the U.S. as this electric drive model. They sell them as combustion engine cars in other markets around the world, but here they're trying to use this new shape to make a new statement that Mercedes has their first electric vehicle.
Now, aside from ride quality and torque and charge time and range, there's another reason Mercedes is going to sell an EV. It's to satisfy the regulations in California and other states that require they sell an increasing number of zero-emissions cars or face penalties.
Price will be around $41,500 roughly before you start adding some options on top. We'll detail that more later when it arrives summer of 2014.
As you've seen, this B-Class has plenty of Mercedes DNA throughout it. Compare that to the BMW i3, which if it didn't have the famous badge, you might not know as a BMW. So the battle of German electrics is now on, and pitting two very different playbooks.